All right, Senator, I'm going to start with asking you about Iran and the MOU. You've maintained a reserved stance on the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding, saying you wouldn't weigh in until you understood the exact nature of what was agreed to. You've had a day now to read the full text of the deal. Where do you stand?
Brooke, Iran is a revolutionary terrorist regime. It's been so for 47 years and remains so today. Iran has tried to kill and maim Americans, to include my soldiers and me in Iraq, since 1979. President Trump deserves credit for weakening Iran more so than it has been in decades, from the Soleimani strike in 2020 to Operation Midnight Hammer destroying its nuclear facilities last year, to Operation Epic Fury destroying much of its military this year. I know Arkansans are pleased to see the decline in gas prices this week as well, and we hope that continues. But I do have concerns that certain aspects of this deal might be a step in the wrong direction. First and most important, we're going to give Iran sanctions relief for oil exports. If you go based on Iran's pre-war oil production levels and the price of a barrel of oil a day, that's somewhere between $150 and $200 million every single day. So $4.5 billion to $6 billion a month. That money, Brooke, we know is not going to go to build new hospitals or daycares. It's going to go to replenish their drone stockpiles, their missiles, to support terrorists like Hezbollah and Hamas. So that's my single biggest concern. There are other parts of the MOU that are not quite as clear, whether Iran will have access soon to up to $100 billion of frozen funds, whether Iran will truly open the Strait of Hormuz and keep it open beyond 60 days without tolls. We'll need more explanation and briefing from the administration on that. But again, President Trump deserves credit for making Iran weaker than it's been in decades. I just hope that we don't squander the leverage that we've built through these military strikes and allow Iran to get back up off the mat.
Gotcha. And I do want to ask you about the nuclear concerns, too. The MOU says Iran won't develop a nuclear weapon, but it allows them to keep their nuclear material and enrichment capacity. Critics say that lets Iran keep its nuclear program alive. How will the U.S. get Iran to abandon its nuclear program?
Well, Brooke, I wouldn't really characterize this agreement as a nuclear deal because it really just agrees to continue negotiating about Iran's nuclear program. To be clear, Iran is not enriching uranium for the first time in decades today because the United States destroyed all of their enrichment facilities and it buried their highly enriched uranium under several hundred feet of mountains. Now, they can reconstitute that in the future, but in the short term, for several years, they're not going to be enriching uranium. They're certainly not going to be doing it to the levels they were before Midnight Hammer last summer. Now, we don't want them to return to that ever. That's one reason why I think it's so vital that they turn over all of their enrichment capabilities. They turn over the enriched uranium to the extent that it's recoverable, because we don't want them in a future administration to be able to enrich uranium to the point where they can build nuclear weapons. But again, thanks to the military strikes in Iran last summer and this spring, for the first time in decades, Iran has no enrichment capabilities whatsoever.
Okay, Senator, switching gears now to D&I and Jay Clayton. President Trump abruptly halted the confirmation hearing for Jay Clayton as Director of National Intelligence this week. Clayton was widely praised as qualified, including by the president, and this is unusual, a president blocking his own nominee's hearing hours before it even started. What do you make of all this? And as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, will you move forward with the hearing soon?
Well, Jay Clayton is a patriot and highly qualified nominee. I tried to do with him what I do with every one of the president's nominees, move him as quickly as possible to confirmation. It wasn't just my team at the Intelligence Committee that was moving quickly. We very much appreciated cooperation from the DNI, from the FBI on the background check, from the Office of Government Ethics on clearing his financial information. He just went through all that a few months ago, so it wasn't that hard to do. So I was looking forward to the hearing yesterday. I hope to confirm him in the near future. In the meantime, I spoke with Bill Pulte yesterday, the acting director of national intelligence. Bill understands that there's a lot of important reforms and quick wins that he can achieve, however long he's at the DNI, that downsize that sprawling bureaucracy. I do think it's important, though, that we not connect the DNI on the one hand to FISA Section 702 on the other hand. Section 702 is one of the most important foreign intelligence tools that we have. More than half of the pieces in the President's Daily Brief comes from Section 702. It helps us stop the flow of drugs from drug cartels into this country. It helps us rescue American troops when they're in harm's way. So I understand the Democrats are opposed to Mr. Pulte's nomination to the DNI, but I wish they weren't taking it out on the most important foreign intelligence collection tool we have, Section 702. I think we can proceed on Section 702, and then we can proceed on a separate track with Jay Clayton's nomination. In the meantime, we can count on Bill Pulte to focus on the badly needed reforms at the DNI.
Okay, and then a separate topic too, I want to touch on inflation. A lot of Arkansans are feeling the squeeze right now. Gas prices are high, groceries are expensive, families are struggling to afford basics. What are you doing to push for changes that would help Arkansas families?
Yeah, inflation is too high, Brooke. It's been too high now, going back 5 years when it reached record highs, going back 2 generations because of the Biden spending blowout. It's very hard when you have that kind of inflation to wring it out of the system. And unfortunately, prices usually don't go down after the kind of inflation we had after Joe Biden's tenure. What we can do is stabilize prices. We're working to stabilize prices. I'm pleased to see the decline in gas prices over the last few days. Now, we could open the strait ourselves militarily if need be to make sure that Iran can never again put that critical waterway under its control. And we may have to do that in 60 days if Iran is not serious about negotiations. But another way to tackle the high cost of living for Arkansans is to put more money in their pocket. We did that last year with a record tax cut. Most Arkansan families for a typical family are going to have more than $3,000 in their pockets because of lower taxes. In the Senate, we're in the process of passing landmark housing legislation that Congressman French Hill led the fight for in the House of Representatives that we think will stabilize housing costs and ultimately increase housing supply, which is the best way to meet growing demand across the state for more housing. So we recognize that costs are still too high for people, but we're working hard to get more money in their pocket and to stabilize prices for them as well.
Okay, and I do want to move on to South Arkansas for a minute. It has become a critical defense manufacturing hub. Lockheed Martin in Camden employs more than 1,000 people, and it's the only place that builds PAC-3 missiles. The Iran war is straining production capacity. How much strain is this putting on Camden's defense contractors, and is Congress doing enough to help them keep up?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for the people of South Arkansas. Some of those defense contractors and others you just mentioned are rapidly hiring. These are some of the highest wage jobs in South Arkansas. They're providing great benefits and job training skills from people across the region. They're attracting more people there. I can tell you, whatever happens in Iran, whatever happens in Ukraine, the demand for the missiles and the missile defense systems that are made in South Arkansas is not going to decline because the world is growing more dangerous. China is growing more aggressive. I also want to point out that Pine Bluff Arsenal is a critical solution too to our national security challenges. Pine Bluff Arsenal was on the chopping block for some time in the early days of the Trump administration, as during the Biden administration. But I worked together with Senator Bozeman and Congressman Westerman to make sure that we didn't just save Pine Bluff Arsenal, we significantly increased the amount of work that's being done there. We're also looking for more opportunities to bring more work to the Pine Bluff Arsenal to get more good high-paying jobs for people around there as well.
All right, Senator Cotton. Well, we have just a minute left. Lastly, I want to touch on Social Security. You're running for a 6-year Senate term. If you win by the end of your next term, the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to be depleted. What is your preferred way to avoid that?
Well, always the best solution is more economic growth, having free market principles that get people to work, that get them higher wages, that have them paying taxes, as opposed to just trying to raise taxes on them and diminish incentives to work or incentives for companies to hire. The more people we have in the workforce, the more people that we have earning a good wage, who are paying payroll tax into the Social Security system, the stronger it's going to be. A second possibility there is to crack down on disability fraud. There are many Arkansans who are genuinely disabled, who can't work. That's what Social Security disability is there for. Unfortunately, Social Security disability fraud has gone very, very wrongly. We've seen this some across the nation in some of the anti-fraud work the Trump administration has done. I think we need an effort to crack down on people who are abusing that system so we're not taking funds away from both the truly disabled and from Arkansas seniors who depend on Social Security. So that's just a couple ideas that we can do to make sure Social Security is there, not just for today's seniors, but for tomorrow's as well.
All right, Senator Cotton. Well, that is all we have time for today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.